Hello, and welcome to Explore the Neuroverse. Hello, and welcome to Explore the Neuroverse. Today we have Sarah with us. Sarah, we obviously know each other through our Three Busy Brains collaboration, and we're very much getting closer to launch date now, which is so exciting, but we'll touch on that in another session. Sarah, we're going to learn a little bit more about you today and your background. So what is your first experience of neurodiversity?
Oh, it goes a bit back. I would say I had no idea what it was. I just started with my son, basically, where he was young and I would get teachers' feedback going, oh, he likes to play certain games and he can't transition easily. And I just thought, well, he's 3. I mean, he's a kid. It's normal. It was when I started to see other elements where it was like, could it be, a developmental delay? Is it that he's not able to, he's struggling in essence, I saw it as bad behaviour because it just kept progressing in that nature. So that's when I had a conversation and it was like, oh, have you ever considered ADHD? Because he was struggling to focus and struggling to transition and he was fixating on elements. And I was like, no, I didn't. And that's when it was that initial, okay, is this something that I would like to explore further for my child? And that's ultimately how I...
So up until that point in time, neurodiversity wasn't a word that you'd heard, you didn't really have any exposure to... No. Friends or family or anyone that sort of were discussing or had ADHD, ASD, any of these things. So this thing, up until the point where you had your son, was completely unknown to you.
Yep. Unknown.
Wow.
Never heard of it.
but that's the thing, right? I mean, I had another friend on here who we recorded yesterday, and she was saying up until she has dyslexia, and she was saying up until very recently, she hadn't even heard the word neurodiversity. It's actually, in terms of the language that we use to cover our community and sort of this umbrella term for all the different diagnoses, it is a very new sort of term that people are understanding. When I was a kid in school, we'd heard of dyslexia, we heard of ADHD. Autism, not really very much, if I'm honest. I mean, you went to school in Australia, which we talked about in one of the other episodes, went under Three Busy Brains. But when you were at school, were any of those words used or not at all, right?
No, actually, looking back, it was not something that I had ever been so exposed to at all. Those terms weren't floated around. It wasn't a topic that was discussed, be it in school or university or even in my corporate career. It was, I think, only just when I had my children. I mean, now my son is 10, but it was only in that period, so around 7 years ago, when I started to hear a bit more about it and get to explore it. But prior to that, no. And I actually had a recent conversation with my sisters going, did you hear about this, growing up, and were you aware about it? And it was like, no, it was only just now through my family journey, but also through friends that they have now started to meet along the way where it's become a bit more aware.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that because I have another friend I was out for dinner with the other night who's also of Lebanese Australian descent. And she was like, Jen, I was looking up your podcast. She was like, I had to Google what neurodiversity meant. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't realize, of course, that it's not as widely understood in Australia. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
But swinging back to your son, so from that sort of initial conversation with the school, what did that sort of interim journey look like from sort of that initial conversation up until the point of diagnosis?
Looking back, it was more that the school was actually just coming with social emotional challenges and, these little things around transitional challenges, but not more than that. And it was actually in COVID when we were at home and I all of a sudden became a teacher and everything else.
Yeah.
I started to see a few things and such as, mirroring letters and numbers, which I was told when I raised it to the teacher, it's quite common at that age. It will phase out. I was like, okay. Again, there was no flag of, you should go and assess or explore. None of that. It was just like social emotional predominantly. And it was when I had a health setback at that period as well where I got a tutor in. And that first session, she's like, I want to raise a little flag. Not to worry you, but maybe your son might have dyslexia or some form of challenge, learning difficulty. And I thought, okay, no, I'm not worried, but thank you so much. But at that time, I felt so frustrated, so guilty. It's like, why didn't I get to know about this sooner? Why am I learning about this now? And from that moment is when I started to basically explore, how do I get to know if this is an element that he's struggling with? So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, so at that point in time, the school you said had mentioned ADHD to you.
No.
Oh, they didn't?
They didn't.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
It was a friend.
Yeah,
it was
okay.
a friend when I was chatting about, these feedback that I was receiving and the challenges that I was having, applying, gentle parenting and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was met with complete oppositional behaviour and everything else. And it was the friend that was like, hey, could it be ADHD? And that's where it was. It was never the school.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So by that point in time, you've had a friend mention ADHD to you.
Yeah.
You've had the tutor sort of bring up the dyslexia, which is another word.
Yes.
I mean, ironically, the dyslexic lady I had on here yesterday was saying, what a stupid word for someone who can't read and write. I mean, well, not read and write in no totality, but dyslexia in itself is the most challenging word to write.
Yes.
It's absurd. So what happened next?
Honestly, it was there was a lot of pieces. I remember first being in the bathroom floor, crying, feeling like helpless. I didn't know what to do. How can I help? Where to start?
Yeah.
Exactly. I felt like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing here, and I just needed to find my feet. But in that moment, I recognized that, actually, I think that I need to help myself. I need to learn. I need to work on understanding how I can have action plan to navigate this. Funnily enough, I actually went and met a lady for cranial sacral therapy. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it was around calming your energy, and it was told that it would be very beneficial to help me and calm my nervous system.
Okay.
So I was like, okay.
So that was something you were seeking for yourself at the time?
Yes.
Because maybe you were a bit stressed or feeling a bit anxious or...
Exactly. Yeah. Everything was overwhelming. And actually, just to set the scene on that, it was because I actually left my career.
Okay.
Because I felt like...
And this was during COVID?
Yeah.
Right.
No, it was at the end of it.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you went through COVID, you've been at home with the kids, you've sort of seen some behaviour that you're like, okay, maybe this is something. And then by the end of COVID, you made that decision.
Yes.
Okay. It's quite a big decision to make, right?
It was. It was a huge decision because I've always been working.
And just for the audience, what was your career at that point in time?
Actually, I'm from a technical industry. So I was in engineering, but in the sales department. So yeah, it was a full-on role, and there was a lot of travel and everything else. And when COVID came, right, it was, okay, there was less travel, and then I had my health issue. So then all of a sudden the priorities started to shift, right? And then at that point, at the end of COVID, it was around 2023. So now we're 2026. 3 years, okay, I decided to take that step back, to reset my career, to focus on the family, understanding the kids and myself. That was basically it. So that's what led me to the cranial sacral therapy. I think that's how it's called.
Yeah.
And when I went in the door, she was like, what brings you here? You know, and I started offloading everything that I'm been going through. And then I was expressing, of course, my challenges with my son. And she was like, you know what? I'm not one to tell you what's what, but your son sounds a lot like mine. And he's got severe ADHD. And I thought, okay, it's now the second or third time like I'm hearing this, and I've already started learning about it. So I wasn't completely oblivious to it, but I was just like, okay, yeah, that sounds about where I'm heading to. So what do you suggest? And she was like, actually, don't waste your time on a lot of therapy and all of that and money, because it can be quite costly. Why don't you explore a thing called brain mapping? And I thought, okay, hold that. Give me the details. Literally did this session, everything, walked out the door, gave them a call, and I'm like, I need to get my son in for a brain mapping. And that's where I actually came to learn that he had ADHD, anxiety, a bunch of things in that.
Again, for the audience, brain mapping, is that the one where they put the things,
the
sensors on your head, and it doesn't hurt or anything? It's just
non-invasive.
Yeah, I had it done once as well. Yeah, because I was curious.
I was curious after.
Yeah.
I was gosh, I want to know if I've got something. It was all about understanding, right?
Yeah.
It was a step. It wasn't an official diagnosis, right?
Sure.
So, but I got to
because they can't diagnose. Let's just be clear with that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an official.
It's exploratory,
but it actually opened up for us to do some neurofeedback work. So
sure, yeah, because it can be a treatment as well, right? Brain mapping, yeah.
Not the brain mapping, is the brain training, which is the neurofeedback.
So that's the next session after the brain mapping, presumably.
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
that's basically.
And there's quite a few clinics here in Dubai that offer that, right? I've heard of maybe at least 3 or 4.
Correct. Yeah. So that was the opening of officially knowing that he does have ADHD, and alongside that there was the anxiety and the depressive state, which I had already seen. You know, he was actually getting physically sick from certain topics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was also why I was literally on the floor crying, going, I don't know how to help him. He became so emotionally eating, anxious, and physically sick, like from certain topics like death and cancer. And it was like, okay, sweetie, I thought you had overeaten, but it wasn't overeating. It was actually those thoughts that made him get a wobble in his tummy and basically let it out.
Bless him.
So yeah, it was a challenging time at that point, and that's where I was like, okay, well, it makes sense. I just need to know, how can I help him now? And that's where we did the neurofeedback, just to get his anxiety down and everything else. And after that, we did go ahead with the official diagnosis, where the assessment was done, the huge questionnaire about many different elements. And that's when we unlocked more than just my son. It was myself and then his sister. So it's an interesting journey.
So how did that come about though? So obviously the primary focus initially was on your son. You went through the diagnosis process with him. All of that happened here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how did you come to be diagnosed during that process? What sort of, in terms of, you know, what did you recognize in yourself that sort of brought you to that point?
Yeah, you know what? It takes me back to when I was with the psychiatrist and then the psychologist, and you get the full questionnaire. And I started, you know, going through it about my son. But then I was like, oh, gosh, I do that. Or, yeah, I've always done that. I thought it was normal. That was something that I had done strategically all along, but it was actually an ADHD trait. And it was also when the psychiatrist said, well, it's actually genetic. It does stem from the family. So if it's not both the parents, it's one or the other, or grandparents and so forth. So in that moment, I thought, oh, my God, it was my husband. I thought it was him. You are the neurodivergent here. And then it was like, actually, it's me. And that's basically when I thought, you know what, I really would like to get myself assessed.
Yeah.
And that was a rocky journey, but we got there in the end.
Rocky journey how?
Because I was starting to get tabled as anxious. You have anxiety.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, but my self-assessment questionnaire does indicate ADHD. Oh, but your observers don't see it. It's like, but I mask really well.
We talked about this in the other episode, right? You are a heavy masker.
Yeah.
And you've done that, obviously, your whole life.
Whole life.
And sort of post-diagnosis, I do want to come back to what that journey looks like. But do you find yourself being able to unmask now? Or
yes.
Yeah, okay. But have you had to learn to do that?
Yes.
Yeah,
and
okay.
I think I also can tailor who I mask for and who I don't mask for.
Oh, I think we have to.
Right? I think it's when you're understood and you can be truly yourself and have a laugh about, oh, God, I forgot that, or, oh, yeah, thanks for understanding. You know, it's okay for me to let my mask down. But when people don't get it and they're not your people, basically, that mask is there, you know, naturally. It's always there.
Because we've grown up doing that, right?
Exactly.
You know who gets you, you know who doesn't, and therefore you sort of maneuver yourself, let's say, right?
Yeah. Navigate it. I think
navigate it, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, to your question around, you know, yes, I'm answering yes, I am unmasking, but that didn't come easy. Like I had to accept and understand myself more and go, oh, actually, that's why I did that at school, or that's why I've been doing that in my corporate. But, you know, this was where, to go back on my diagnosis and where I was like, okay, well, they kept bucketing me in anxious. It was like, well, were you fired from your job? No. Were you, you know, did you get a degree? Yes. And it was like, oh, then, well, your observers don't even see you as having it. And it's like, but that's the whole point. It's invisible, right?
Yeah.
No one, even my husband, doesn't know what's going on in my brain, right? At the end of the day, it all looks fine. But then when you go back to it, my husband's like, God, Sarah, I don't know how the kitchen is like that when you are all over the place. And it's like, that's me. That's how I do it. But to gain that confidence, to be like, it gets done differently. That's okay. Yeah. And it was when the psychologist.
So sorry, I do want to swing back to the kitchen. Yeah. What is it about the kitchen that he was noticing? When your husband says how is the kitchen like this? What does he mean? Is it super tidy? Is it super untidy?
Not tidy.
Yeah. Okay. So that is I have ADHD as well. Obviously there's different types of ADHD, but I have the other version where everything has to have a place and everything has to be neat and tidy. Otherwise, quite frankly, I lose my shit.
100%. I mean, look, to answer you, it's not about me being untidy in general. No, I am a bit of a freak.
Neat freak.
Yeah. Organising and everything has to have its place.
Yeah.
But it's more about when I'm in the kitchen doing a cooking or whatever, from his lens, it's like, well, you should clean as you go along and you should be doing this and that. And it's like, yeah, but that's not me.
Yeah.
It will get there.
And do you want to do the cooking?
Exactly. It will get there. The end will come, but it's different how I get to
everybody's
there.
process is different.
And this is it. And I think that's where I was referencing the psychologist that said to me, Sarah, everyone has seen your output. No one has seen how you got there. Yeah. And that is the turning point for me, is to also take that back to my family, to the kids, to be like, you know, I'm being rigid about, nighttime routine. 7 p.m., you know, it's supper time. 7:15, shower time. 7:30, whatever, right? But then I realized, hang on, It's between 7 and 8. It doesn't matter how you get there. It's getting these items done. How you get there, I don't mind. And it was that shift in going, okay, everyone didn't see what I was going through, that procrastination, the leaving things to the last minute, the chaos.
Yeah.
They just saw the output, and that's where they were like, well, I would never have thought you've got this.
But that's the thing. They're not inside your body. So therefore, they don't know how many millions of thoughts you're having at the same time, how many distractions you have, how high your cortisol level is, whether your nervous system is hanging on by a shred at any given point in time. Because obviously, with ADHD, you can have days when you are firing on all cylinders, and you can have days when you're really not, you know what I mean?
100%.
But the thing is, people don't see the difference because it's all happening internally, right?
Yeah, invisibly. This is exactly it. And I mean, one thing to add to that, I always had this bird. I call this, I think we touched on that
before, but please do go in more detail.
Yeah, this is a big one because it was also part of understanding the kids when they started to have this negative talk, this confidence being quite low and emotionally eating and all of that stuff that I was sharing earlier. That was me, and it was internally always this bird that's like, oh, you're not good enough, oh, you can't do that, and it was always there. It was that constant in my head that I was constantly trying to bark at to shoo it off, but it was there, and that was hard.
Which we now know is RSD, which is a big part of neurodiversity.
Yes.
I'm going to do a whole episode on it, but I think that it keeps coming up in lots of different episodes, and it's very, very real.
It is.
That sort of, that, as you say, bird voice, whatever it is, that's constantly telling you you're not good enough or all the negative words, right?
Exactly.
And it's very difficult to stop it.
Yeah, you can't stop it. And this was where I felt like a hypocrite for my kids. It's like, you got to tell them, you can do it, champion them. Oh no, sweetie, you're not dumb. You've got this. Like, you are bright, you're intelligent. But then I'm like, in my own little corner, I'm sitting there having these thoughts, and that's when I really needed to work on myself. You know, I really needed to invest that time, and that was the period where I was able to do that once I stepped away from my career. I was able to focus on learning, understanding myself, transforming myself for myself and for the family, because once I started to do that, it enabled such a smoother environment where I was like, okay, bad behavior is actually communication. They're telling there's something behind all of that. It's not, and dysregulation is not like, you know, oh God, there's a tantrum and it's all negative. It's no, they need time to exert that energy and just shifting that and understanding.
But as a mum, neurodiverse yourself, running a 3/4 neurodiverse household, like if we as mothers are dysregulated, we can't hear any of that. We're not capable of. So it actually, and we touched on this quite a lot with Georgie in her dyslexia episode yesterday. Actually, self-care for mums is so important because regulating ourselves and our own nervous systems and give us the sort of the tools, the equipment to be able to hold it all together for everyone else, for ourselves and everyone else. But I mean, ultimately, mums come last in the household. We all know that.
We do.
I mean, I'm sure there are households that are the exception, but it's not the way it is in mine, that's for sure. But it is so important, right? If we as the mum are not regulated and we're not looking after ourselves, it's very, very difficult then for us to hear what our children are telling us, because they don't communicate in a verbal, articulated way. They're children. They express themselves through their emotions or their behaviour. And that can be quite tiresome, right?
Yes, 100%. And you know what? We talk about this regulation word, so I get it now. But at the time I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean I have to be emotionally regulated? I've never learned that. So we talked about earlier, I didn't know what ADHD and dyslexia and autism, that wasn't there. And I don't even know how to emotionally regulate. I had to learn all of that
Yeah.
to be able to model it for the kids. And that was the hardest thing. It's not secondhand nature for me. It was hard. And when you're having go, taking everything, the emotional load, working, whatever else in between, even when I wasn't working, doesn't stop, right?
No,
That
being a mum is a full-time job anyway. Running a household,
Exactly.
all of those things is a full-time job.
That's right. And then when you get like a therapist going, oh, how were you in that moment? Were you regulated and calm? And it's like, oh, no, I might have started that way, but then no way, it didn't last that long. It's like, oh, but you always got to be calm. Yeah, no,
I mean,
come
in
on.
theory, that's great. A therapist can say that. But when you're in the moment and your child is driving you absolutely insane.
It's all out the window.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Because we're humans.
Yes.
And we can be triggered the same as anyone else can be triggered.
Yeah.
If it happens, I mean, yes, in every situation with my children when they're having a meltdown or whatever, I try to stay as calm as possible.
Yes.
But it's not always possible.
Yeah. No, at all.
No.
And it was like, okay, so how can I get a toolkit for myself that when I am starting to boil over, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
So then I can also replicate that or role model that for the kids. And that was the transformation that I'm talking about, the working on myself to be able to be that better parent, you know, and that better person for myself in understanding my triggers, understanding what makes me happy and how can I absorb that? Because I actually was that checklist machine. I was just like, tick, tick, add on to the list, tick, tick. There was nothing where I was absorbing it. I wasn't
just
enjoying
sort of driving forward, making sure you ticked all the boxes, everything looks perfect on the outside.
That's it.
But without any real feeling. Is that fair?
Yeah. I wasn't getting joy out of things. It was just do, functional, get it by, practical, done. And this is why I had no emotional understanding or, you know, the regulation term was not understood at all. And now I'm at a different place and I'm constantly learning, like, okay, yes, my son's diagnosis and myself, but then it opened up my daughter as well. And then autism came into the picture and I was like, oh gosh, I mean, I knew ADHD and I knew autism is a spectrum, but I didn't know more than that. I only knew the severe, you know, the nonverbal and socially challenged. That's what I knew. And it was learning more about that because that is also a part of our family now. And it's constant learning and through connection. Honestly speaking, it's when I started connecting with people and the circle of inclusion and support from school and other networks as such, it really helped me learn more and be able to touch on topics that I was like, oh, for example, medication, therapies, understanding, you know, what is the best. And it's not the same for everybody. It's trying to have your person or tribe, basically, to be able to lean on and not feel judged and just ask those questions.
We've talked about that before in terms of a lot of it's trial and error. And we actually, when the three of us were on the radio the other day, one of the things we were talking about is the fact that once you've got the diagnosis, there's also the language that you have to learn. Like, okay, you don't know how to regulate, but you don't know what regulate means. And all these other words that once you know the language and you understand what they mean and you understand the tools, it's all great. But that takes time. It's not something you automatically know. Yeah. And the information gap, as you say, between the diagnosis, therapist, school, they don't give you all the tools that you need. As you mentioned, it comes very much from community.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which brings us nicely on to Neuroaffirm Hub, which we're launching as a collaboration tomorrow with the podcast and with Yvonne from Unicus Collective. But please tell us what brought you to What was the idea behind Neuroaffirm Hub?
The idea came about 2 years ago. So a year into my career break, if you want to call it, or departing my career. And it was because of that journey I was on where I felt like, okay, there's so much resources and information and access to great therapists and, you know, going to the schools and getting their support and everything. That's all well and good. But the connection, feeling seen, understood, and having that bond where, okay, I can feel safe in sharing my journey and I feel like I'm not alone. And how can I get this community? You know, there's a lot of support groups and there's so many events that I also attended in like learning about topics of neurodivergence. And it wasn't the same because there's like pockets and there's no real community that opens up for everybody. So the idea came about 2 years ago. But then imposter syndrome, that bird that, you know, you don't have what it takes, who's going to want to listen to you, all of this kicked on. And it was when, as I shared, I worked on myself, the therapies, the medication, the reframing of the limiting beliefs, when I found that confidence and strength to be like, yeah, I have what it takes. And it's about connecting and empowering others and bringing everybody together to feel like they belong and that they're not alone. And it was that conversation that I actually had with Yvonne, where it was like, hey, I've got this idea. And it was just synergy in the air. It was like magic. And she had shared her idea and we decided to progress with our lovely collaboration and get it going into fruition, which is like a dream.
Absolutely. But also I think there's a lot to be said of what happens in the background with the three of us as well, because we are all neurodiverse and we are all running households along with all the other things we have to do. And I think we benefit from working together because of those things, because I think maybe individually one of us, because, you know, ADHD has cycles, right? So one of us would be in a burnout whilst the other one's procrastinating. Well, and also we're dreadful at getting things done without a deadline as ADHD people.
Yes.
So therefore, the fact that we can hold each other accountable and give each other deadlines really does help us to keep moving this forward, right? Because, I mean, even for myself, I think if I didn't have the two of you, I'm not sure this would be moving at the pace that it is.
I hear you 100%. Like, I'm just going to go, oh my gosh, this is so true. Like that we've held each other accountable. We gelled so well and we are, what do you call it? Like we are understanding of each other. So we give each other grace, I would say, because
grace
we
and
understand.
Space.
Yes, grace and space. I think
I think we're very good at, because obviously the audience doesn't see our group chat, obviously, but we're very good at sort of understanding where each other is at and sort of being like, okay, I'll pick up this thing because I can see that you have a lot on right now. Do you know what I mean? But we don't stress about that. We're just like, okay, that's just the way it is, right?
Exactly.
And something that sort of came up on one of the episodes, well, the episode that I recorded yesterday, which I think is really important as well. Do you go through burnout cycles?
I would say silently.
Yeah. Okay. But you're aware of it.
I am aware of it. And I think my husband is very well aware of it.
Well, yes, they get the brunt of that.
He always used to be like, oh, why does everyone get this amazing, bubbly Sarah and I get this, I've got so much going on and I need you to hold this, hold my space. And it's like, well, you are my person.
Yeah, that's your job.
We're here in it together, right?
You signed the contract, mate.
Yeah, the power of being together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, marriage is a team, right?
Yes.
But they do get the rough end of the stick because he's not wrong. You present this mask to the outside world. And then when you come home, you sort of, you unmask and you can be free and you can say the things that you need to say, but it doesn't always come out very well. No. Certainly for myself. I don't know about you.
No, 100%. It's not always received very well. Let me just be clear.
But when you're you can recognize in yourself that you're having some sort of burnout. How do you take care of yourself in those moments?
You know, just one thing popped to my mind around this whole burnout and me silently dealing with it. It's just around the fact that how I was raised, and, you know, we sort of touched on it briefly, that culturally and the stigma that it was like, we don't talk about these things. We don't want to share any wrong energy.
So sort of suffer in silence, and there's a shame element, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that, I tend to sort of navigate it myself. Now, as I said, I've unmasked now. I tend to unmask and I'm quite open, and it's about breaking that cycle, right? Like, it's not shaming or making pointing any fingers at anybody. It was the way it is, and now it's about changing that. And so I'm now a lot more open and calling out that, yes, I'm having a burnout. I'm really overwhelmed right now.
Yeah. So giving a voice to it.
Yes.
Almost like, I know I say this a lot, but giving yourself permission.
This is it. It was giving myself permission, being kind to myself, resetting the expectations. Like, okay, you've done this and this and this, and you've got this. Okay, how can I define that and talk about that load? And instead of coming at my husband going, rah, like, you know, it's like, okay, this is my load I'm carrying. Can you pick up X, Y, and Z? And about learning to let go. I feel like a lot of that is wanting to be a bit of a control freak. I don't know if you want to call it that way.
Yeah, I think we all have that somewhat in our nature. But it's sort of because we're all perfectionists as well, because we spent our whole childhood trying to do all the things that we were supposed to do, that everyone says constantly, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. And it's hard. Because your body or your brain doesn't work, or none of it's working in synergy with each other.
Yeah.
Like, you know, sit still, do this, do that. And we learnt to do it.
Yeah.
But we were masking the whole time. And all we ever
100%.
wanted to do, but you ultimately become the ultimate people pleaser, right?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. That's me all over. And I've had to learn to be like, it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
It's okay to be able to say, actually, I'm having a struggle. It's not okay to be suffering in silence, which is where I was doing that for the longest of time.
So in that moment, I'm curious, because I've learned to do that as well. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, it was a horribly vulnerable place to be, because I'm not used, I am now, but I wasn't used to making myself vulnerable in that way.
Yes, 100%. I mean, as I said, I didn't know about anything, and I started learning about everything, about all these terms, about my traits are actually ADHD, and it's okay to have them, but about how do I navigate it and actually understand it and be like, yeah, it's okay to share about your challenges and your differences, and that actually, this is why I'm so strong in so many ways, and why a lot of people would like to be in discussion with me about different stuff and enjoy that, you know.
And that's the thing, right? We've talked about it a few times, like in the previous episode on the radio, but it's that piece, I think, that is missing, that very much Neuroaffirm Hub is looking to address, in terms of sometimes we just need a space where we can be around other people who are having a similar or shared experience, and vocalizing what we're going through, asking questions, being vulnerable, shouting and screaming if we want to. Like we said, you know, maybe your husband's annoying me, maybe your children are annoying you, because as much as we're their advocate and we are, you know, the tiger mum, they're also annoying. They're our children. They annoy the hell out of us. But we wouldn't say that to other people, but we need that safe space that you're creating to say all those very real things and ask questions. You know, you're going to get answers that don't necessarily apply to you, or, you know, there'll be something that you're going to have to try and it's not necessarily going to work, but at least you can come back and be like, okay, that didn't work.
Yes.
What do I do next? Did someone try something else? Because otherwise we don't find all the answers.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that belonging, that sense of feeling safe and understood and seen, and that there's no judgment, right? Like, it's about everybody has their journey. Everyone's at a different part of their journey.
That's true as well. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Some might be at the very beginning, questioning, not even on that journey, and they're just curious and they're slightly, you know, trying to get into be open about it. And then there's others that are well into the journey and they are a lot more confident into creating that awareness and empowering others. So it's about bringing everybody together, allowing from different cultures, from every...
Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't matter where you are in the journey, where you're from, what language you speak, everyone is welcome, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And it's just about feeling comfortable to connect and learn from each other. And, you know, also I would like to have, I don't want to add to resources, but it's like having that toolkit to be like, okay, where am I at on this journey? And what do I need to unpack and where do I need to go?
Yeah.
It's just having like a bit of that toolkit under your belt to go to reference and see that you have this community to go back to at any point in time.
Sure. So just we need to finish up quite soon. However, I would like to sort of, from a toolkit perspective, is that going to be sort of an evolving toolkit as you the more community groups you have, you understand more like the questions that come up more and like repeat questions and the toolkit, how will that be available to people via your website? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so actually in the event tomorrow, I will be handing out the the physical version of it.
Right.
And the digital version will be available on the website.
Sure.
So you can download it and then print it out if you wish, and you could write and scribble or do as you wish. But initially, it is just a small version of what will expand. And as you said, it will be expanded as the community feedback.
As the community comes together. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
So by the time this episode goes out, our launch will have been complete. Yeah. But you are going to be holding more community groups over the coming months, right?
Yes.
And as you say, your toolkit will be evolving and available on your website. Perhaps you could just, before we finish up, let the audience know where they can find you.
Yeah, they can find me on neuroaffirm.hub from an Instagram perspective. I've also got LinkedIn, same concept, and then I've also got the website. And actually, because of our 3 Busy Brains element, we are all on the
we have a shared
page.
landing page for 3 Busy Brains. So if people can't remember any of the other things, they can go to 3 Busy Brains.
Exactly.
And they'll find all the details for you, me and Yvonne there.
Yeah, 100%. So
amazing. Well, thank you very much for coming in today, Sarah. This was fascinating.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.